that are brought to members of parliament rather late on time. People who will be given that authority to do what needs to be done to this country. Mr. Speaker, we have a central bank, again, that thinks the same way it was thinking years ago. The same stuff, they were there years ago. Young people are not getting opportunities in those areas, Mr. Speaker. Just like Treasury, young people are not there. If you go there, Mr. Speaker, the senior people, all of them are people who have climbed over the years. There's no fresh thinking. There are no new ideas. And I'm telling you, I can guarantee you, Mr. Speaker, that next year they will be buying new cars again. There will be a budget for flowers. There will be a budget for, somebody here was saying, fuel cards of hundreds of thousands. Mr. Speaker, as we look introspectively, I think we need to sweep the house called Treasury. We need to drain that swamp, Mr. Speaker. We need to bring new people into that Treasury, Mr. Speaker. In the finance department, we need new ideas. We need a fresh thinking about that Treasury, Mr. Speaker. When people refuse to change, then change must change them. What the young people have shown us is that they have capacity to ask questions and think outside the box. These are the people that we need in that Treasury, Mr. Speaker. People who will stand and tell us, you don't need 20 security people working with you. What are you afraid of? Mr. Speaker, we need to rationalize everything. And this can be done only by somebody who is from outside. Somebody who will look inside that Treasury with a clean eye, a fresh eye, a young person who would say it doesn't make sense to do this and this. It didn't need people to go and riot, Mr. Speaker, for these points to be understood. We need fresh people to go inside there. And Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that Professor Njuguna Ndung'u must go. The head of Treasury there must go. The head of finance, they must go. The director of budget, they must go. Because these are the people, Mr. Speaker, who interacted with these figures, ridiculous figures. 803 million for cars for 3 offices, Mr. Speaker, for a whole year. And then they bring them to members of parliament to crucify them here. Mr. Speaker, something needs to be done. And that Treasury also, Mr. Speaker, as we drain the swamp and the changes that need to be done, we also need to ask the national cohesion to look into that Treasury. Mr. Speaker, counties like Tana River County, continuously over the years, you will find a budget line of water, there's nothing. A budget line of tarmac roads, there's nothing. 5 years, 6 years. Why? Because we don't have any people in that Treasury who are involved in the budget making process. Mr. Speaker, we need, as we drain this swamp, to have a clear indication where are these employees of Treasury coming from in terms of where their counties are from. Mr. Speaker, you will come to be shocked that if the National Cohesion Committee here is to give you the figures, many people will be coming from certain areas. And it is those certain areas that are given the bulk of the cake of this country, Mr. Speaker. So we have to answer to these questions that are being raised in Treasury, Mr. Speaker. Treasury is the biggest culprit in this whole thing. Treasury is the one that was going to burn this country because they are bringing wrong figures, putting wrong priorities, and telling us, go and borrow, go and borrow, go and borrow, and telling us there's no other way. And Mr. Speaker, most of the times, members of parliament, when they're interacting with this, they have faith in those people who are advising them. And the experts are the people who are in Treasury. But when you look, Mr. Speaker, the kind of advice, when you start studying those figures, Mr. Speaker, we have a very big problem in that Treasury. Treasury has been a big letdown. Treasury is the one that has been advising us, even for the division of labor, the division of revenue. They were denying the counties money. Mr. Speaker, Treasury has a problem. And before we resolve this problem, we will never solve the problems of this country. Mr. Speaker, all the senior officials in that Treasury, they are as guilty as everybody who doesn't wish this country well. So, Mr. Speaker, I pray one of the recommendations should be to sweep that Treasury clean. New people to come in, to look at our processes and to deal with these matters that has been raised by our young people with an open mind, Mr. Speaker. People to be told the truth that we can't make budgets like 1980s. You still come to make the same budget in 2020s, Mr. Speaker. Things have to change, and I think this liberation must be domiciled in that Treasury. All the questions that are being asked are to do with money. And Treasury, Mr. Speaker, is very guilty. They have kept quiet. They are not saying anything. Treasury is very guilty. They are the ones who know where our debts are. They are the ones who have held all those secrets. Treasury, Mr. Speaker, must be cleaned. Treasury must be cleaned, Mr. Speaker. And even if we do all these changes, we change ministers, we change whoever, we appoint committees, multi-sectoral, what if Treasury is not changed, Mr. Speaker? They will still come back with the same advice to the president next year, and this problem will not go away. So I laud the young people for fixing their eye and focusing on the questions of money to define the third liberation. My appeal is that they shouldn't go to the extent of being blamed again because of destruction of property and killing, and the killings that come with the resistance and everything. What should happen is let them focus the questions they have risen about Treasury, Mr. Speaker. Treasury. The changes must, from central bank, I know they have security of tenure, but we make these laws, we can make them again. The governor, his deputy, the deputy directors, all the central bank, it needs to be drained. The CS Treasury, the deputies, and everybody, they all need to go, Mr. Speaker. We need new people who are dealing with things with new eyes. If we don't fix the Treasury, Mr. Speaker, this third liberation will have failed. And we will have let down our people, our young people who are in our houses, because all of them are asking the same question. Treasury. What can we do to clean this treasury? And Mr. Speaker, we need a fresh start. And I would be one of those people who would be so happy to see changes happening in that treasury, Mr. Speaker. You can't have people staying in the same ministry 20 years. What do we expect? They will bring us the same budget they were doing in 1990. The same thinking they were having in 1980. It's the same thing they will come to tell us, and they will come there with figures, and you don't know. You cannot look at a 40-page document within 1 week and make very good suggestions. You'll be told, oh, that road of yours is there, that bridge is there, so support this document. And that's what people do. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, they take the blame, while Treasury, Mr. Speaker, are the ones who know what is happening. Mr. Speaker, we need to focus and I hope the people will make suggestions, and this Senate, as we summarize what we are presenting as our thinking, the question of Treasury, Mr. Speaker, will be central, because these are the people who have been letting us down, Mr. Speaker. Treasury, we need to drain the swamp at the Treasury. This is the whole issue about the demonstrations, about the questions our young people are asking. Mr. Speaker, I support that motion. Thank you.
Senator Professor Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this motion, and to thank you and the leader of majority and leader of minority for allowing time for us to ventilate on what is going on in our country. Mr. Speaker, I was in South Africa with the Senator Mungatana, but we were not able to rest without watching you in this Senate. So we kept going back to the records in the evening to make sure that we are with you. And I want to thank senators because I felt extremely proud to be a senator in this time because of the contributions from these members of the Senate. I really felt happy that at least we are holding the bull by the horns, as they call it, and this Senate has made all of us proud by the contributions that they have made. Mr. Speaker, I will not therefore repeat some of the things that have been done. I will just capture a few areas. I'm a member of the Education Committee, and I will touch something on the education, the issues that were highlighted by our youth. But before I say that, Mr. Speaker, I want to condole with the families that lost their loved ones in this demonstration, and pray that God gives them peace and comfort at this very difficult time. Our youth, Mr. Speaker, questioned our taxation vis-a-vis our application of the taxes that we have. And they actually made us think. As I listened to the senators, I said, it looks like it had to take the Gen Zs for us to actually think about how we apply our taxation. And I think this was really timely, and it is time that we actually discuss ourselves and question ourselves about even how we spend within Parliament itself. I will touch on the education sector, Mr. Speaker. And in touching with in the education sector as raised by GNCs who have gone to school and have not been employed, the challenges of going through school are still real in this country. In the year 2003, Mr. Speaker, basic education in Kenya was supposed to be free. It was declared by Parliament that it was going to be free. But basic education in Kenya is from primary to secondary, up to the Form 4 level. But has it been free? We need to ask ourselves, has it been free? Because that was one sector that was supposed to have been taken care of by our taxation. And this would have made everybody happy if our tax was used to give everybody this human right called education up to the basic education level. Then people would have gone to look for training and would have moved on. But this has not been the case, and this is why our youth are saying our parents have struggled. They have paid right from primary school, secondary school, up to university, and we have no jobs. This time that we re-looked at that, Mr. Speaker, because Kenya has endorsed a lot of agreements, both in the national and continental, as far as education is concerned. In fact, in the year 2008, free secondary education was pronounced by the then President Kibaki, and we are supposed to have free day secondary education. But today we know that there is a lot of payment that is being done. Are these legal, and can they be stopped so that actually we can have fairness as far as basic education is concerned? I dare say, Mr. Speaker, that fairness in basic education, since education is a right, would enable everybody to be able to move on with in their lives when they go for skill development. But as long as we have any fees being paid, we cannot call it a human right, because it means it is those who are able who will have their children moving in education. Mr. Speaker, I will never forget your speech when I joined, I was the Minister of Kibaki, and we came to Kilifi to give a new university, 2 universities in 2 days to the coastal area. And you talked about this kind of discrimination yourself, Mr. Speaker, and that day you actually told the President, now Bwani is Kenya. And we were all proud and we were very happy. And this is what some regions in Kenya are still asking for. Are we equal? Are we being treated equally? Education is the equalizer, according to Mandela. And I think we should all remember to make sure that if there is anything our tax must do, it must provide education for everybody, so that every family, whether rich or poor, can actually have their children progress in an equal manner. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the House, and there is one proposal that came forth which I would like to support. The proposal from our colleague Senator from Kiambu, Senator Thangwa, that we need to make sure that free is free in education. The problem currently, Mr. Speaker,
and we are all aware, is the fact that there is something called bursary. And we are trying to equate to